Hi everyone, welcome to a short video on the persuasive speech and just some supplementary thoughts and content related to persuasive speaking. So real quick, taking a look at the persuasive speech assignment sheet. Once again, the time limit is 7 to 9 minutes. It is our biggest major speech of the semester. It's also worth the most points, 125 points. So our goal, once again, is to look at things that are either, problems that affect society, policies regarding specific issues, or attempting to affect people's perception on matters of value, whether something is right or wrong, good or bad, etc. Research is going to be really important. Once again, for this speech, you have to have at least 4 sources. 2 can be web-based, 2 need to be non-web-based credible sources, and you're going to use these to back up the claims that you're making. It's going to be really essential for your speech to be persuasive and to actually convince people to come along with whatever it is that you are talking about. You're going to have to back up your assertions with facts that come from research. So, I had a brief time at the end of the class periods this week after our demonstrative speeches to talk about this speech, but I did talk a bit about choosing your topic, and it's going to be, once again, super crucial that you start with a question of fact, value, or policy. That's going to be the crucial starting point. Once you have picked that question, you're going to take a clear position on that question, and that's the argument that you're going to be making. That's what you're going to be trying to persuade the audience of, is your position on that question of fact, value, or policy. So, diving into that real quick, once again, first, question of fact. So, these are just like it sounds. Is it true or false? Okay, so a question of fact, the example I gave on the assignment sheet, is climate change primarily caused by man-made factors. And then I could take a position on that issue, either yes, that is true, or no, that is not true. So, my specific purpose might be I want my audience to agree with the position that climate change is primarily caused by man-made factors. And then I would use research and persuasive language to try to convince the audience of that claim. A couple other examples of maybe, questions of fact. Does playing violent video games make someone more prone to violence in real life? And then I could take a position on that question and make that my claim. Another example, question of fact, is the news media in America biased? And you could make that claim that yes, I am here to convince the audience that the news media in America is biased, or you could take the opposite side of that factual question. Okay, so moving on, if you're going to use a question of value, I had the example, is capital punishment right? Once again, that's the death penalty. And so, is it right? That's what makes it a question of value. Is it right or wrong? Is it good or bad? And then I would take a position on that issue. Some other examples of questions of value that might work for a persuasive speech. Does social media positively benefit society? Yes or no? Are music and the arts valuable subjects to be taught to K-12 students? So is it valuable? Makes it that question of value. Okay. And then third, a really common one for persuasive speeches is a question of policy. So this deals with rules and laws. The example on your sheet, should gambling be banned in Illinois, is a policy question. And then I would take a position on that. I want to convince my audience that the state of Illinois should ban gambling. Lots of other examples of policy-related questions that might work for a speech like this. Should super PACs be legally allowed in politics? Should there be limits on campaign spending in politics? Should concealed carry of guns be permitted to United States citizens?
Should politicians, should the president of the U.S. be able to serve more than 2 terms, or should they not? Should they only be able to serve 1 term? All of these policy-related, law-related questions, which can either be, like I mentioned in class, local, state, or nationwide based, however you want to approach that. So we would just, there's lots of different kind of avenues that you can take, approaches that you can take as far as your topic choice. Once again, research is going to be key. Also, making sure that you're choosing a topic that's not super trivial. Example I put on there was, should spring break be longer than 1 week? Not a lot of credible research and engaging discussion that's going to go into that topic. And then topics that deal with matters of taste, is one brand better than the other, really isn't going to serve the purpose of this speech. Make sure that you're citing at least 4 sources in your speech, recent and authoritative, as usual. 2 of the 4, like I said, can be web-based. 2 of the 4 need to come from, sources like encyclopedias, academic journals, books, etc. Once again, you will be doing a full sentence outline for this speech. You'll also be creating presentation aids, typically, as you guys know, PowerPoint slides or some other sort of digital presentation software. So once again, remember those design principles. You don't want to put too much text on a slide. Creative use of images and photographs can be really helpful. If you are putting text information on a slide, just make sure that you're using spacing properly. You're not putting so much on there that people are going to be sitting there reading the slide rather than focusing on you and what you're saying. The slide needs to be secondary and supplementary. Okay. You will be, once again, using a speaking outline as usual, so bring those to class, have those prepared as usual. And, one thing I think I didn't mention in class is note cards and sheets of paper. Since this is a 7 to 9 minute speech, I'm going to up the amount that's allowed just a little bit. You can have up to 7 note cards or 3 sheets of paper, okay? And I don't think that was clearly outlined either in class or on the assignment information sheet. So up to 7 note cards or 3 sheets of paper. Once again, remember though, the keyword speaking outline is keywords only, and you shouldn't be looking at it the whole time and reading off of it. It's something that you glance at occasionally to know where you're at, know what's coming up next, know where your transitions are, when to go to the next main point, but it is not a script, okay? And then last but not least, how you'll be graded, okay? The selection of your topic. So did you take a question of policy value or fact, and then did you make a clear take a clear position and make a claim? That's going to be really important. Are you using logical reasoning and clear argument construction? And I'm going to talk about that in just a second. Citing at least 4 sources, using good organization. So that means your intro needs to be clear, your transition to the body needs to be clear. You need to have some main points that are backing up the claim that you're making, and your transition between those main points and the body need to be clear, and then you need to have a solid conclusion that summarizes all your main points and ends on a vivid note. Using those visual aids, verbal and nonverbal delivery skills as usual, and then use of your speaking outline and staying within that time limit, okay? So, in the rest of this video, I want to take a quick look at a couple things from chapter 16 and 17. So I've got some slides here from chapter 16 real quick, which was on the foundations of persuasion. And really the key information in chapter 16 is defining persuasion and then talking about the role of pathos, ethos, and logos in persuasion. So let me just bring up a couple slides here and talk about that. So really quick, just defining persuasion as it's defined in our book. Persuasion is the process in which a communicator creates an argument, and that argument is created in an attempt to convince others to change their attitudes or behaviors. Okay, and then Aristotle, a long time ago, talked about this idea of artistic proofs, which are essentially the reasons that a speaker gives for an audience to accept an argument that's being created. So you can't just make an argument and have no reason for anybody to accept the claims that you're making. You have to back it up with what we call artistic proofs. So looking at those just real quick, the three artistic proofs are ethos, logos, and pathos. So ethos is the first. This is also known as speaker credibility. So this is what makes the speaker believable to the audience, okay? And the book talks about numerous ways that you can go about using ethos in a persuasive speech. You know, exhibiting good character. This is about choosing topics that matter to you most and sticking to your own conventions, even if maybe your position on an issue might be unpopular or not the common position that's taken on that issue. Expressing goodwill. So this is finding common ground with your audience, even if you disagree on a particular topic. Demonstrating good sense is another form of ethos. So this is using intelligence, sound reasoning. That means supporting your claim with trustworthy evidence and logical connections. That's where your research is going to come into play. And composure. So maintaining, your composure is important in persuasion. The more confident you are, the more likely somebody is to believe your claim. And then finally, showing dynamism. This is energy and enthusiasm. The more enthusiastic you are about a topic, the more persuasive that you're going to be. All right. Pathos is the second. This deals with emotions. So persuasion, an important part of persuasion a lot of times is appealing to people's emotions in the audience. This can be done numerous ways, appealing to positive emotions, things like love, peace, pride, hope, freedom, etc. But we can also be persuasive by appealing to negative emotions, things like fear, anger, guilt. We see this used a lot of times in politics, in persuasion. We can also appeal to people's needs, okay? Basic needs, security and safety, love and belonging. All of this stuff can be used as tools of persuasion. And that's what those emotional proofs and pathos are all about. And then finally, we've got logos, which is also known as rational proof. This is all about using logic in your verbal arguments. And there's different ways that you can take logical approaches to rational proof. One is using analogies. Reasoning by analogy can be really effective. So metaphors is a really common example of that, a way that you can help audience members make connections between things that they understand and things that you're trying to get them to come along with. Let me find my spot. The wrong spot here. The book gave some good examples of reasoning by analogy, using metaphors. Some examples from speeches given by professionals, and one really quick one that came from a political speech. The presidency is the most visible thread that runs through the tapestry of the American government, right? So just using creative language to make a point or a claim more vivid. Reasoning inductively, reasoning deductively, reasoning causally are all other ways that you can use logos or rational proof in your speeches. So inductive reasoning is specific examples that lead to a generalization or conclusion. Deductive reasoning is kind of the opposite. this applies a generalization to specific instances, and then causal reasoning is cause and effect. I'm going to come back with a part 2 video to wrap this up, so check that out.